Give it 1 second. Wonderful. What's up, world? You're watching the Joy Daily Show with your girl, Joy Daily. And today I am so happy to have Dr. Joan in the building. She's in her building in New Jersey because we're all still on quarantine. I hope you guys are staying home despite the good weather and the protests and everything that's going on in the world. So welcome, Dr. Joan. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and just happy to share some information so we all can stay safe.
Exactly.
And stay alive.
You know what? People have gotten really comfortable these
Yes.
past few weeks. A lot of people are behaving as if there's no global pandemic going on. It's just another summer. So, Dr. Joan, I'd like for you to first start out, just give us a little bit of information about your background and tell us a little bit about your medical experience.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm Dr. Joan Malcolm, and I am a family and cosmetic dentist, also a health educator, passionate about lifestyle health and lifestyle medicine. And I've been practicing for over 25 years. And I'm just excited to share this information because we have the power to stay healthy, to beat coronavirus, and to just, continue to be a positive light in this world and, just help others live a life more abundantly. So that's been, my mantra for the last 25 years. Now we're in the midst of this pandemic, and those principles that I've learned and that I've taught over the years still are applicable to these days.
Well, let me just tell you something. You look amazing. I don't know how old you are, but if you've been practicing for 25 years,
over 25 years,
over 25 years, which is longer than a lot of people have been alive, that means that you're up there. So you look amazing. You're taking excellent care of yourself, obviously.
Thank you.
And maybe you can teach us some steps that we can take to take better care of ourselves during this global pandemic. Now, in all of your 25 plus years of medicine, have you ever seen anything like this coronavirus in your years of practicing medicine?
No, I've never seen anything like this. This is unprecedented. Now, we've had pandemics before. There was the Ebola virus, the Zika, H1N1, etc., and MERS and SARS-1, but nothing has come to the shores like COVID-19. And this is all unprecedented. So, I'm experiencing this just like everyone, never seen anything like it. But there was a global pandemic 100 years ago, the Spanish flu, and that is pretty similar. That's the closest thing that we can compare to what we're experiencing now, the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic.
Yeah, and that was over 100 years ago. So, I mean, right now we should have the type of technology that should make a difference with, the fatalities and things of that nature, but it doesn't seem to be helping with this novel coronavirus.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about what you believe the situation is with ventilators. Because I posted a video before talking about the coronavirus. Everyone was responding. They're killing people in the hospital on the ventilators. There's a big debate about, if ventilators help or they hurt during the coronavirus. What is your medical opinion about ventilators and the coronavirus?
Well, before we get into that, I just want to go back to the 1918 Spanish pandemic, and there are some changes. We did learn a few things, and even though as bad as this is, it was worse. There was over 500 million people infected over a 3-year period, and over 50 million people died worldwide. I pray we don't get to those numbers. I mean, right now we stand at over 400,000 deaths worldwide and 7 million. And so we are socially isolating ourselves. We are wearing masks, so maintaining social distance when we're out in public and things like that. And so, there are some things that have improved, but this is still a bad situation. Now, getting to the question about ventilators. Ventilators save lives. What's been going on is that the hospital systems are so overwhelmed, and people are getting on ventilators at a point where they are so sick that the ventilators are not helping them. There was a statistic that showed that 8% of the people that were on ventilators in New York ended up dying. And that's because the virus had infiltrated their lungs to a point where they just couldn't breathe. And even though the purpose of the ventilator is to help the patient breathe, and they're not breathing, and they're still ravaged by the virus. So they're at a point where not even the ventilator can help. And of course, the novel coronavirus has, there's really no cure for it. What a lot of the medical establishment has been using are drugs that have helped in other situations, malaria drugs, the hydrochloroquine, the remdesivir that is used for some autoimmune situations. And so they're using those types of drugs, but they're still trying to find something specific that will help the fight the coronavirus. But at that late stage, so I like to categorize or put this whole COVID-19 coronavirus situation into three phases. Phase one is, there's no infection, we're socially isolating ourselves, we're maintaining social distancing, we're wearing masks, and there's no infection. Then there's phase two. We've gotten this virus and we're infected, we have flu-like symptoms, etc. And we call up our doctor to say, I don't feel well. I have flu-like symptoms, but you're not sick enough because you don't have shortness of breath, you don't have a high temperature. So that's phase two. Then there's phase three. You have shortness of breath, you have a high temperature, and you have difficulty breathing. And at that point is when you are presented to the hospital. But what they're finding is that people, when they arrive in that situation, they're so bad off and their bodies are so ravaged that it's very little that can be done. Some people do recover. A lot of people have recovered, but those who have to go on the ventilator are the most sick, in the most critical situation. And, at that point, they may recover or they may not recover, unfortunately.
So it sounds like a lot of the people that get on the ventilator and don't make it are people who waited a bit too long to go to the hospital. Now, coronavirus is like, you can have so many range of symptoms, from no symptoms to death, right?
Right.
So how does a person know when it's time to go to the hospital before it gets too late?
Well, see, and I'm going to, just share my personal experience. As I said before, I'm a dentist, I'm a healthcare provider in a high risk category. And I presented with flu-like symptoms. I called my doctor up and she said, well, you're not sick enough. And, you don't have a temperature. And what's happened is that symptoms have advanced rapidly. How do you make sure that you don't get to that point? There are things that we can do to rev up our immune system or level up our immune system, what we can do to get ourselves out of that phase two and back to phase one so we don't advance to the phase three. And so there's a pulse oximeter that you can get. As a matter of fact, I think I do have one. Good. Pulse oximeter that you can get to measure the oxygen saturation in your blood. That's going to let you know how well you're breathing. There are things that you can do to daily monitor yourself, monitor your symptoms, check your temperature daily, etc. And so those are clues that we will need if we are feeling unwell and the doctor says, well, I can't see you. Because remember, there was telemedicine, telehealth. They weren't seeing any patients. And you literally had to be at death's door in order for them to say, okay, come on into the hospital, because they weren't even seeing you in the doctor's office anymore. So these are things that you can do to monitor your symptoms: the pulse oximeter and the thermometer. And so temperatures greater than 100.5, that's you're in a danger zone. Even I'd say 99, degrees and higher, you're in a danger zone. So you've got to monitor it. The pulse oximeter, usually we like to see readings of 95% or higher. So anything less than that, you're in trouble. Lower than 90%, definitely some serious trouble. And so there was an article that was written by an emergency room doctor who said that when the patients presented with difficulty breathing and having other respiratory issues, they would take the chest x-ray, and they had so much infiltrates in their lung that it was so shocking. Folks just didn't know they were that sick. So these are things that we can stay on top of. And also just, eating healthy, maintaining a healthy diet, um, things like that that we can continue to do, and deep breathing exercises, etc.
Okay, now another controversial topic in the world of the coronavirus that a lot of people are talking about online is they're saying that the numbers of deaths are drastically overreported, and that in the hospitals, no matter what you die of, if you died of diabetes or if you died of a heart attack, or it doesn't matter what your pre-existing condition, they're labeling these deaths as the coronavirus to inflate that number. In your medical opinion, do you believe that the coronavirus deaths have been overreported, like many people seem to believe, or do you believe that they're underreported, or do you believe that they're accurate?
I actually think that it's underreported. I think there are a lot more people who are walking around with the coronavirus, because remember, there are a lot of people that are just asymptomatic. They're not showing any symptoms. And the hospitals just world over, the narrative is the same, whether in Wuhan, China, or in Italy, or in Spain or Brazil. The hospital systems are overwhelmed with coronavirus patients. The hospitals stopped seeing stopped doing elective surgeries. And, some people say, well, what? People just stop having heart attacks and things like that. They've reported those deaths, but the coronavirus is highly contagious, and can be a very devastating disease fast. And in my personal opinion, I feel that those numbers are underreported, accurate to underreported. Um, we're in this pandemic and it's going to be with us for a while.
Now, well, that is really interesting information that you just shared with us. Now, another topic of controversy in the coronavirus discussion is, does race affect the way that you show symptoms with the coronavirus? Do Black people have different symptoms from white people or Spanish or Asian, things of that nature? A lot of people are saying, you know, we're all humans.
Mm-hmm.
There's no difference.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a difference? Can there be different symptoms for different races?
Well, the novel coronavirus is displaying different symptoms at different times. There's also mutations of the virus. So the virus that was in Wuhan, China, has mutated several times. Even the way it manifested itself in Washington, the state of Washington, is different than how it manifested itself in New York. Generally, it's a respiratory illness. It's the severe acute respiratory syndrome. That's what the coronavirus does. So there are different manifestations. Now, African Americans have also presented with difficulty breathing, shortness of breath, etc. If you have underlying health issues like diabetes or high blood pressure, you're going to be more vulnerable to the disease. As far as it being now, initially we talked about the acute respiratory distress syndrome. Then there was blood clots showing up in some individuals. A lot of folks were presenting with blood clots and things like that. So it just, I think that's the main thing. Now, why more African Americans are being impacted? A couple of different socioeconomic reasons. A lot of our African American brothers and sisters are, frontline workers. I'm a essential frontline worker, etc. And there were individuals who, were working in the grocery stores, our essential service workers that we needed to, stock those grocery items and to ring up the groceries, etc. The bus drivers. So those individuals were more exposed to the virus, therefore coming down, a lot more African Americans coming down. And also your environment, if you're not in an open air kind of environment where the virus will be more diluted, and you're in a congested area where there's pollution, etc., you're going to be more exposed to a higher concentration of the virus.
What are some steps that, say, we're young and we're healthy, so we feel like, oh, we can go out, we can protest, we can go to a restaurant, whatever. And, we have older parents at home in the age range that it's dangerous to expose them to coronavirus. What are some things, some precautions that young people can take to make sure that they don't bring this virus home to their parents?
Okay, great point, great question. So, everyone's protesting, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But you have to remember we are in a pandemic. There, you've got to maintain social distancing. I saw one protester, one person who was leading a march, and she was on live, and I said, remember to maintain social distancing, wear your mask. That's important. Bring hand sanitizers, etc. Those things are really important. The numbers, the coronavirus cases would be even higher if we had not socially isolated ourselves for like the 2.5 months, almost 3 months that we were isolated. So folks have to remember that. I've seen protests where people are literally one on top of each other. And folks just have to be careful out there. We are still in a pandemic. You're at risk. And there are going to be spikes. And as a matter of fact, right now there's spikes. There's spikes in Florida, Arizona, Arkansas, and in some of the other areas. And this incubation period is like 5 to 7 days, up to 14 days. So you may have gone to a protest 2 weeks earlier and not presented with symptoms, and you come home, you're asymptomatic, you have an older relative at home who is vulnerable, who has diabetes or high blood pressure, who's just older and can't fight off this virus as well as a younger person can. So I want folks to remember that. Be careful. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Because some of these protests, we're talking about thousands of people
Yes.
right on top of each
Yep.
other. And
Yep.
I interviewed a few protesters.
Uh-huh.
Both of them said, "Oh, I wasn't wearing a mask, or I took it off, or I wasn't worried about that. I'm fighting for my rights." And it's like you can't forget the times that we're in. These are not normal times,
Exactly.
you know. So I'm glad that you touched on that.
Mhm.
Now, this is an interesting thing that's happening
Okay.
in Africa. They
Mhm.
don't really have a lot of cases of the coronavirus. Now, I don't know if it's because of lack of testing or maybe it's lack of exposure, but they don't have the numbers, and they're not seeing the numbers that we're seeing over here in the United States as Black people. So, can you explain that, why that might be?
Well, that is interesting because it was predicted that Africa would be seeing a lot of cases, that Africa would be ravaged. But a couple of things. So when Africa, well, first of all, it's a continent. Africa is a continent. So when the cases came to some of the countries in Africa, borders were closed. The countries close their borders early, and that is a big thing. When you close your borders early, you're going to lessen the severity of the disease, and so there's that factor. Also, in the continent of Africa, in a lot of the countries, there are younger population individuals, so they can fight the virus off. So that's a factor. The testing, you know what? I'm not sure, Joy, if lack of testing also is an issue, but I know that the cases that are being reported are far less than what was anticipated. And the other thing is that it's a hot climate, there is humidity, all those things are working in its favor. So I hope and pray it continues to do that. But a lot of folks live right on top of one another. And, with folks living pretty much from the wages that they earn that day, it's difficult for them to stay home and to stay isolated. But somehow, it's working out. There have been some reported spikes in South Africa, and we'll see where that goes, but they have not reported the number of deaths that you see in the United States, in Brazil, in the UK and Italy and Spain.
Now, we just discussed, the importance of wearing a mask. If you are in a huge crowd of 1,000 people doing one of these Black Lives Matters protests, which they're still doing,
Yes,
is wearing a mask really going to help you that much?
it's going to help. Being in that environment, you are at a great risk of picking up the coronavirus. But wearing a mask is better than not having a mask. It's just one of those things that people are putting their life on the line for a cause that they believe in. And as a result of these protests, we've seen these police officers being charged so fast, which we have not seen that in decades. Not in my lifetime. These police officers are being charged. We're hearing of legislation where there's police reform. Corporations are stepping up and saying that they want to be a part of the solution. There's a lot of good coming out of it. People are putting their lives on the line, but they have to know you're putting your life on the line. You got to be careful, and you have to wear that mask, maintain that social distance as best as you can. And fortunately, they're protesting outside where the viral load is somewhat diluted, but it's still present.
Yeah, especially with some of the close contact that they're having, especially with police officers. It's very disturbing to me, and you can give me your medical opinion on this. When you go to a fast food restaurant, the drive-through, or even if you have to have an interaction with, say, a police officer, and they're not wearing a mask, or they have their mask down here, like it's not covering
Right.
their face. Um, is that legal? Like, is that okay for police officers to not wear their mask, or a fast food person that's serving food to not wear their mask, or is that legally a problem?
Everyone should be wearing a mask. I know in the state of New Jersey, you have to wear a mask when you're in, a public space. So that's important. You have to wear a mask. Um, what I would say is the individual who's protesting, you make sure you're wearing a mask. Even though they say that, when you wear a mask, it's basically, unless it's a N95 or a P100, the mask is protecting the other individual. But, wear your mask and just back up a little bit so that, and just remind whomever that we are in a pandemic and you're putting my life at risk because you're not wearing a mask.
And in regards to food and food handling, what are some precautions we should take, like say when going to the grocery store or buying food from like a restaurant? They've opened up some restaurants, so some people are actually eating food outside on patios. Like, what are some tips that you can give us for, eating safely during this coronavirus pandemic?
I have been cooking my own food. I have been cooking my own food. When you're out at a restaurant, in a public space, on the patio, again, make sure how can you ensure that the person that's cooking the food is washing their hand? Um, there was a study that showed that a person, a nasal swab was done to check for the coronavirus, and the person ended up not having coronavirus. But when they checked the fecal matter, that person still had the strains of coronavirus in their fecal matter. And so hopefully individuals who are preparing our foods are washing their hands. Um, the one good thing that has, well, there are many good things that have come out of this horrible situation with the pandemic, but the emphasis on cleanliness, I am so glad for that, because so many times you go to the bathroom, a public bathroom, and folks would just use the bathroom and not wash their hands.
Mhm.
So folks are now seeing that it is important to wash your hands. Wash your hands thoroughly and completely, 20 seconds or longer in warm water, because this virus is susceptible to the breakdown of soap and water, and you can wash it away off your hands. So again, you're taking a risk. Just be careful out there.
Now, what if you come into contact with someone that you know has the coronavirus? What should you do like immediately after to make sure that you're not taking that person's coronavirus home with you?
Well, if you, again, so what I recommend is to level up your immune system. um, we have a page. I have a page, Circulation Beauty, where we talk about health, natural remedies to level up your immune system, optimize your immune system, because this virus is not going anywhere. And you saw the recent video that I did about how to prevent COVID 19, and how to beat COVID 19 if you get it. So there are some things that you can do to optimize your immune system, like taking a tonic that includes turmeric, organic garlic, organic ginger. And I recommend to buy organic. Why? The nutrients are more potent, they're more concentrated, they will help your immune system. And these things are improving and optimizing our immune system. It's working with our physiology, our body. And so that's what I would recommend, to start taking that. I've recommended the ginger, the turmeric, and the lemon juice. I have the recipe on our Circulation Beauty site. And then also checking your temperature, checking the pulse oximeter, getting the pulse oximeter. At one point, the pulse oximeter was all sold out. You couldn't find it anywhere, but now I'm starting to see them again. So get that, check your level of oxygen, etc. And, you know, just try to stay safe. And if you are developing flu-like symptoms and you have a temperature, contact your physician. If they say, well, the symptoms aren't bad enough yet, and that was the problem, they didn't have enough tests. So even though you presented with symptoms, they were not testing everyone, because they just simply didn't have enough tests. That's the truth. So they were reserving the tests for individuals that were the most sick, people who had difficulty breathing, shortness of breath, high temperature, etc. And at that point, some people just didn't make it.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. Now we have more tests, so it's not as difficult for someone to get tested.
Right.
Now, in your opinion, was there anything that the United States could have done differently to have possibly slowed this pandemic, or even possibly prevented this pandemic? Because Ebola never made it to
Right.
America like
Right.
this.
No.
So therefore, some precautions can be taken to avoid this type of situation with our government.
Right.
What do you think
Right.
our government could have done differently?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question. First thing that they could have done was take this whole pandemic, this virus, seriously. That's the first thing. And look at what was happening in Wuhan. So we knew back in January that there was devastation. People were dying left, right, and center in Wuhan, China. And so borders were not closed. Um, the World Health Organization had a coronavirus test that other countries had accepted. We did not accept that. We made our own test that ended up not working. So there was that factor. So we didn't close our borders early enough. We did not accept the tests that were working, and everyone else was using it. And the public just wasn't warned. And I'm so saddened by that, because I know I had some friends who passed away. People just did not know. They thought they had the flu, and it's not like the flu. It's very fast, it's very aggressive, and you have to know how to treat it and be on it swiftly, aggressively, and consistently by taking whatever tonics you need to take, the antiviral tonics, antiviral teas, etc. The steam inhalation has been fantastic because this virus hates heat and it hates humidity. So that steam inhalation, and again, boiling, well, I have the recipe on my Circulation Beauty site, so I would recommend folks visit that site. But just doing daily steam inhalation, not putting your face right in the boiling water, but just allowing the vapors and inhaling it, creating a sauna environment to help drive that heat up your nasal passage, and that will help denature and diminish the effects of the virus. So, those are things that we can do. But yes, I agree that we just didn't do enough early enough. And as I was saying, in Africa, in the continent of Africa, the borders were shut early. And from what I've read, they've done testing. Now, another country that has totally ignored the warnings is Brazil. Brazil, their president has not closed the borders. People are just going about their daily lives, and the rate of infection is greater than what it was in the United States. They've just had the virus for 3 weeks, and already 47,000 people have died. They've not taken it seriously. When you look at other countries like Singapore, South Korea, they took it seriously. They were on top of things. They were testing. They were doing the things, warning the public. They put out those public service announcements of wearing the mask, because everyone was wearing a mask in those Asian countries. And so they prepared their people. And as a result, they had very few cases and
Yeah.
very few deaths.
And it also seems like our government didn't know what to do themselves. Like at first they were telling us, don't wear masks.
Right.
And then it was now, I always thought the mask made sense. Not
Right.
only that, I'm like, well, why is everyone wearing a mask in China?
Right.
Obviously it's for
Exactly. When you would look at the reports in China, everybody was wearing a mask in China.
exactly.
And I think early on, there was just not enough PPE, personal protective equipment. I think that's what it all boiled down to. So they were discouraging the use of masks, and then folks just started getting creative. People who were paying attention, who were looking at the news from all over the world, saw that everyone was wearing masks. And then, everyone got creative and started making masks. And so I think when the CDC saw that, they were like, okay, it's recommended that you put a facial covering. You can use a bandana or what have you. But I think, yeah, they were not encouraging that because there was just not enough personal protective equipment out there. And as a result, now that everyone's gotten into making it, I mean, we're still low. It's hard still to get the N95s. It's hard to get the KN95s, et cetera. Um, so as a healthcare provider, we now have to wait every 2 weeks before we can order our new supply of masks. And that's because there's still a low supply of it.
Now, as far as reopening, because now we're in the phase of, different states are in different phases of reopening. Have you reopened your office?
I have. We've been open now for the last 3 weeks. And again, being a dentist, being right up there in a patient's mouth, I've got to
Yes.
protect myself
Oh,
because
absolutely.
I'm constantly being exposed to my patients, whatever's in their mouth, their viral content. So what I've done, as I said, I've daily, we check when our patients come into our office. Well, first of all, before they even come into the office, we do our pre-screening questions, ask them if they've had any flu-like symptoms, if they have any temperature, etc. Then we do our curbside check-in, and we check their temperature with the thermometer, and then we also have them rinse with a pre-treatment rinse, and then we go over additional questions, making sure there hasn't been any changes, because we know with the coronavirus things change very rapidly. So we ask the questions when the patient makes the appointment and also the day that they come in and they present for their appointment. But as a healthcare provider, what I'm doing, I'm taking that tonic that I talked about, I take it every day. I also, there's a special, so I take one in the morning with that has the turmeric, the ginger, the garlic. Then there's another one that I also take that has beets and celery, more ginger, more garlic, and more turmeric. And those things have allicin in it, special and a special antiviral component that helps, helps boost our immune system or optimize the immune system. Garlic, especially, is great in producing these antimicrobial peptides for respiratory ailments. So those are things that I'm doing daily, and thank God I've been healthy.
Thank God. Yes.
Yeah.
Like you said, I lost a family member recently
So
to the
sorry to hear.
coronavirus, and it was so unexpected. Um,
Yes.
like at first, it was just like a rumor in our family. We heard they were sick. We heard no one really like took action until it just got so bad that they just they were almost about to like pass out in the house. It's a husband
Wow.
and wife, my aunt and uncle. So they both
Oh,
went to the hospital, and my aunt made it and my uncle did not make it home.
so sorry to hear
And
that.
it's so sad to think that when you go into the hospital with the coronavirus and it's that bad, you never get a chance to say goodbye to anyone.
Right. Right.
You
Right.
can't visit, so it's just like, honestly
Yeah.
feel like it's one of the worst ways to go.
Yes. Yes.
Then you can't
Individuals
even
are
have a funeral. They
right.
top it all off with that.
Right.
It's traumatic. It
It's
really is.
very emotionally devastating time these last 3 months. It's been horrible, and my condolences to you and your family, because that's a very painful loss. It's just we're gonna all need a lot of therapy
Mhm.
coming out of this. Just those who've lost loved ones and friends, and going forward, the coronavirus is not going anywhere because there isn't any vaccine, and we've got to learn how to deal with this. We have to reopen and get back to life, even though it's not going to be normal, but we have to get back to life. And what do we do to protect ourselves? And we have to learn how to protect ourselves. And there's a plant-based diet that's more nutrient dense, more protective. So we know the plant-based diet is great for heart disease and great, to fight against diabetes and everything, but also those phytochemicals are great in providing the body with the nutrients to help our immune system fight off, these viral attacks. And so it's just, what I always say is health is a system of good habits. It's not just one magic bullet. It's not just taking one pill. And as a matter of fact, you get better nutrients from whole foods than from actually what's in the bottle. Although with vitamin D, let's talk a little bit about vitamin D, which has been very helpful and necessary in fighting off this coronavirus. Folks who, what they found is that individuals who have a low level of vitamin D are more susceptible to developing the more advanced stages of the coronavirus. So you want to
Which
make
a lot
sure,
of Black people have
right,
low vitamin D, correct?
right, that's right, that's right. And if the more melanin in your skin, you've got to have a little more sun exposure. And so what's recommended is 30 minutes a day, um, a little longer. Early morning hours are just wonderful. So early morning is best for getting out there, getting some nice fresh air, getting the sunlight, getting the vitamin D that's going to give our body, help our body, assist our body in fighting off disease and staying healthy. And vitamin D also is a precursor to many to hormones that will help our body. So vitamin D is very necessary. We've got to check our vitamin D levels and see if we need supplementation. Most people do need supplementation. And the reason why the wintertime we're more susceptible to the flu is because most of us are indoors. And so vitamin D3 over the counter is good. And that's one of the few supplements that we recommend buying over the counter. But as far as getting other good nutrients that we need, eating whole foods, plant-based diet, organic diet is going to be the most beneficial.
Now, you did say that your office has been open for 3 weeks. Do you see schools opening anytime soon? And if they were to open, what would it take to have a school open where children can come together in a classroom setting?
It's going to be tough, but in Korea they actually have opened, and they have the kids separated by the plexiglass, or yeah, the plexi partitions. So they have those measures that they've implemented. They put markers where kids maintain 6 feet of distance from each other, and you know, I don't know. We'll see what happens in the fall, because they say it's supposed to come back in a second wave and will be a little more destructive, because now you'll have the flu virus in addition to the coronavirus. So, it's just one of those things we're going to have to wait and see. But they'll probably have to look to the Asian countries who are going through it, going through this, and they've implemented those measures of maybe putting the desk apart and things like that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Well,
that's
hopefully,
going to be our new normal.
yeah, and I hope that they just, use the, like you said, use the Asian countries as an example.
Right,
Obviously, they've been there, they've done that, they
right,
know more than
right,
we know.
right,
So
right,
I just hope that our government,
right,
I don't know what's going to happen with Trump, but whatever. We'll have to wait and see, like you said.
right.
Now,
Get out there
I
and
do
vote.
want you to tell us that website that we can find that recipe that you were telling everyone about that you take
Yes,
on it.
yes.
What is that
So
website?
I'm on, well, it's www.circulationbeauty.com. So it's circulationandbeauty.com. And we believe in perfect circulation equals perfect health. And good health is a constant system of good nutrients in and toxins out. If toxins linger in our body, disease forms, congestion forms. So we got to find ways of moving out the toxins. And again, like I said, health is a system of good habits, eating right, exercising. And you don't have to be out there in the gym, sweating. It could be as simple as going for a walk every morning. That is so beneficial to your body. Just getting out there early morning, taking some nice deep breathing cycles, and just take some deep breaths. Hold your breath for 10 seconds and exhale. Get in some nice fresh oxygen, especially oxygen produced by trees, because that provides another special protective benefit. Alpha pinene that is not only soothing but also immune boosting. There are actually studies, Japanese studies, that show that this is really great in walking amongst the trees. It's called forest bathing. And so that's beneficial doing that. Um, Getting the fresh air, and sunlight, it boosts your mood, it boosts your energy, and then you get the vitamin D. So it's a win-win-win. Drinking the right amount of water every day. During this time, you don't want to have, you don't want to be get thirsty. You want to be drinking every 15 minutes or so, every 30 minutes. Make sure that you're keeping, you're staying well hydrated during this time. Getting to bed on time, that is so important. And I'm guilty of that. I don't get enough sleep, but we got to get to bed at time. That melatonin production is also very beneficial, fighting against respiratory ailments. Um, and then managing our stress well, managing the stress well, etc. Not being stressed out. It is stressful times. It's worrisome times, but we have to believe in a greater power that is in control of everything that's happening. So just all those things. And did I mention the plant-based diet?
You
Healthy
did.
diet? Okay, good.
Definitely did.
So yeah, those things.
And
And
I think also just remembering that the world has gone through this before. It's nothing
yes,
new. I mean,
yes,
it's a new virus, but like you said, the Spanish flu, there was
right,
Ebola, you know,
right,
there are so many,
right,
every so often this happens on the
right,
earth. So we just
right,
have to know how to deal with it
right.
better.
And
Um,
we are learning, we're learning more and more about the coronavirus. There are other symptoms that have shown up that people are being aware of. They've seen some rashes in some children and things like that. So people, you know, before they said young people aren't affected by this, then young people were getting affected, developing stroke-like symptoms and, and other issues. They said children weren't affected. Now children are developing rashes. So we all have to stay protected. Um, so I'm on social media, Instagram as Dr. Joan, and also Circulation Beauty, and also on Facebook, Circulation Beauty.
Thank you so much. I learned so much from our conversation today. I know that the world is going to benefit from all the information that you gave us today. I'm definitely going to make sure that I get outside and get my vitamin D. And like you were
Yes,
saying about the trees, no, I didn't
yes,
know about that. So I
yes,
see the importance of that. I'm going to make sure that I incorporate that into my everyday routine,
yes,
including your tonic.
yes.
That sounds like something, like you said, you can't get those type of nutrients from a multivitamin. You just,
No,
it's not
no,
the same
no.
type of level of
Yeah, you got to go to the
nutrient, right?
store, get that juicer, get the fresh organic beets and the celery and the garlic. The garlic is just amazing because that's like a natural antibiotic that really doesn't have any side effects. And I'm not talking about eating it in pounds, eating it in grams, 1 or 2 cloves daily. That just works with your immune system and builds it up and
Does it
protects you.
matter if it's raw or cooked? Like, say if you want to just cook with a lot of fresh garlic, is that the
Oh yeah, cooking
same
with fresh
benefit?
garlic is amazing. Cooking with fresh garlic is also amazing. But in addition to doing that, juicing the garlic. And it may not be the greatest tasting, but those benefits, those immune protective benefits are just, priceless. So it's just something, I recommend daily. And that's what I've been doing.
Well, everyone, make sure you follow Dr. Joan on Instagram. Very easy at Dr. Joan,
Uh-huh.
correct?
Yes.
And make sure that you just, if you have any further questions, you want to get in touch with her. If you're in New Jersey and you're
Yes.
looking for a dentist, she's definitely the expert that you would want to see. Now, just to close out, I'd like for you to give advice to people. I know people like this, and these people, they really get to my nerves. But there are a lot of people out there, or there's some people out there that don't believe that the coronavirus is real. They think this is just like what Trump said, a democratic hoax. They think that
Yeah.
it's some made
Yeah.
up thing. They think this is a way to keep people in captivity so they
Yeah.
can't be free to do whatever they want and live their life. Please give me some medical advice and just regular, even the motherly type of advice that you would give to these people who just do not believe that any of this is real.
Joy, I share the same frustrations. I am connected to people, know people who were posting all of this, disinformation. That's what I call it, disinformation. And it's sad because first, remember the first rumor that was out, oh, this is something that don't affect Black people. Remember that rumor? This doesn't
Yeah.
affect Black people.
At first, it was
And
like, oh, Black people aren't getting
right,
it.
can't get this right. And what happened? Where it was ravishing the Black community, and so there's a lot of disinformation out there, and this is the age of fake news. And we know that this is real. I have a lot of friends who are physicians battling this disease daily, who are anesthesiologists, pulmonologists, etc., who are on the front lines dealing with this disease. And I've had conversations with other people trying to convince them, but I think what we have to do as individuals is do what we know is right. We know it's real. We have over 117,000 dead Americans from this disease. World over was shut down. Um, all the hospital systems have been overwhelmed with so many people because it's so contagious, so infectious, and the hospital systems were just overwhelmed with so many people coming down with it. And it's sad because that's how this thing is going to continue to spread, because of the ignorance and disinformation out there, where people are just coming up with all kinds of theories as to why this thing is fake. It's maddening. But we who know better just have to do better, wear our masks, because there's a lot of ignorance still out there. And unfortunately, sometimes people won't take something seriously until it comes to their doorstep. So, you know, what we have to do is stay the course. And thank God that you've provided this forum. I thank you so much for creating this forum so that you can, you know, get some good information out there to the public to help them, so that people could get more information. Coronavirus is real, and it's coming back in the fall. There are spikes, and what we need to do is remember to wear our mask. Can't say that enough. So maintain social distance, um, socially isolate ourselves at times, and then, you know, eat the foods that we know will be beneficial to our bodies, and exercise, and do all those wonderful things we talked about to stay healthy, so that if for some reason you are exposed, your body can fight it off. So that's all I can say.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joan. That was amazing information. And we're all going to definitely take your advice. And the non-believers, like you said, unfortunately, you'll have to hit them closer to home for them to know that it's real.
Yeah.
But, you know, at least we're providing them information, and,
Yes.
and we're in a world of information. So that's all we can do, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, well,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for joining us today. And again, if anyone wants any more information, or if they want to find you anywhere, just go ahead and leave us with your all your social media platforms again.
Okay, so on Instagram, it's at Dr. Joan, Dr.Joan, and also at Circulation Beauty. And I also have for the dental office, Dr. Joan, Bright Smiles, NJ. But once you find Dr. Joan, you're going to find all the other social media platforms, because I, you know, post from my various social media platforms. And then I'm also on Facebook, circulationbeauty.com, and Bright Smiles Family Dentistry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joy. It was a
Take care of
pleasure. So
yourself.
nice to finally meet you and see
Yes.
you.
And
Thank
we'll
you.
definitely keep in touch. We might have to
Absolutely.
follow up, you know, when that second wave hits.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.